Welcome to Red9SysTech, myself Karthik Ponnuswamy. Today we are going to see one of the interesting challenge or coding challenge in Java with respect to exception handling. So before I tell the problem statement and get into solution, I want to explain what is exception handling, and why do we need exception in Java, or like why do we need to handle exception in Java, and how to handle it, right? So let's quickly dive into this one for like a couple of minutes. Then we'll dive into the problem statement and then get into the solution. So guys, whenever a developer develops something, right? So there is a chance that like you have to make your flow of your program to execute properly, right? Which means like smoothly it has to go. But there are some situation where there are like there is some place where your normal flow of execution of your program might get disturbed. Which means let's say some abnormal condition which makes to disturbs your the normal flow of your program. There is nothing but exception. So I hope now you understand like what is exception, right? Exception is nothing but the abnormal condition that disturbs the normal flow of your program. So what is exception handling? So in order to avoid this type of normal termination of a program is nothing but exception handling. Exception handling is nothing but handling the exception, right? Which is nothing but to avoid the situation of handling how to handle your execution of your program. But why do we need to handle this, right? What is the purpose of it? So if you have any flow of your program is getting disturbed, which means like your program will get terminate abnormally, which means the rest of the code won't get executed, which means like it is not efficiently handled, right? So how to resolve this? So as a developer we have to resolve it, isn't it? So for that we have to come up with some exception handling methods. Something like you have to use some result keywords. Let's say try and catch, finally, throw, throws. These are the result keywords which you have to use it. Now we will be seeing how to use it in our current problem. What is our problem? What is our problem statement is saying, and how to handle it, right? So these are the syntax, guys. Now I don't want to take a lot of time here. Let me quickly jump into a place where we can start about reading about our problem statement, and then quickly jump into solution part. So guys, if you see here, exception handling is nothing but the process of responding to the occurrence, right? Then let's say whenever abnormal condition happens, you have to handle it, right? So now let's get into the problem. What is our problem statement says? Guys, as a developer, I have to give two integers x and y as input, and then I have to compute it. Compute means like I have to do some calculations on it, right? So which means like x by y. It's nothing but like I have to divide x by y, and if x and y are not 32-bit signed integers, or if y is 0, then I have to handle that exception, right? And I have to report it. Report means nothing but like you have to just print it, saying that okay, there is some exception happens, right? So read the sample input output to know what to report in case of exception. So let's see the scenario. So one sample input is something like you're giving two inputs, 10, 3. Then my sample output is 3, which is nothing but positive scenario, which means like my code should execute properly. Then second scenario is I am giving 10 and hello, which means hello is not integer, which means it is going to throw an error, say that like it has to say like mismatch, right? Input mismatch exception. So we are going to handle it. But in Java, we know how to get the input from the user, right? How to get it? We have to use scanner t is equal to scanner of, in which we have to use system.in, right guys? So system.in, where we are going to get the input. Now we have to say sc.next integer, nothing but you are going to get the integer, right? So which is nothing but your input, and similarly I am going to get another input from the user, which is nothing but sc.nextInt. I have to store these integers, isn't it? So for that I'm just saying int x is equal to this one, and then int y is equal to this one. Now I want to say, let's say int z is equal to x by y. What happens now? Let me just go and run the code. I should get some exceptions, right? Like if you guys see here, some compile time error, right? Saying that okay, scanner cannot find the symbol, which means like this scanner has to, oh sorry, it's a typo. Sorry guys. Okay, if you guys see here, there is no compile time error, but wrong answers, because like all the test cases are failed because we are not handling the exception so far, right? But our purpose here is to handle the exception. So how to handle it? So with the help of try catch, right? So I have to use try block, in which I have to put my code wherever I think like okay there is exception can happen, right? So this is the place where I think like okay exception might happen. So I just put this inside my try block. As we know, we can't have just a try, we should have catch the exceptions, right? So catch block means, so this is the way how you have to write a catch block, in which you have to write the exception handling, right? What type of exception you are going to handle it here. So here I am saying input mismatch invalid um, yeah, input mismatch. The catch block I have to say input mismatch exception, AES, right? And then here I have to say out this out. I have to say java.util.input mismatch exception, right? This is my sample output I'm expecting, which I'm giving in the system.out.println statement, right? Now, the second scenario is, let's say if I give the input as 10 and 0, then when I divide 10 by 0, then it is going to be divided by 0 error, right? Arithmetic exception. That also I have to handle. So how I can handle it? The help of another catch block, nothing but for arithmetic exception, and this should be, let's say, rth exception, right? And nothing but java dot, it is coming from language, right? So java dot lang, you have to print as it is, only then our test case will get passed here. Okay, so let me put it out as it is here, guys. So it is going to print it, and if you guys see here, this one I would say mismatch exception. Now I want to handle one more scenario wherein, let's say, if anything related to input mismatch happens, then this try will throw a error exception that will be catched here. If anything related to arithmetic expression, right, exception happens, this will be catched here. What will happen if it is other than these two? That also I need to handle it, isn't it? So for that I need to say the general exception is nothing but in catch block. I need to simply say exception exception, right? Means that is a very generic one. If none of them get captured, it will be captured here. So here I should say this out, exception happens. That's it. So now it's a time to check our code. We run the code. Okay, only one sample test case get passed. What is that? Okay, arithmetic exception is passed. What about this one? No response on std out. Okay, cool. Which means you guys see here, when you try to say int is it equal to x by y, you see here expected output is 3, which means we have to print that, right? So we have to say this out, right, which is what we have in our code, right? Now let me run this code. We go ahead and run the code. Okay, cool. Now two test case get passed. Okay, divided by 0, 3 is passed. What about this one? Okay, if you guys see here, exception in thread main java.util.input mismatch exception, right? Which means this input mismatch exception is not properly handled here. The problem here is, right, so we are seeing the test case are not passed, right? So let me do one thing. I think the problem here is the value which we are getting from the user, like x and y, so that should also be inside try block, because we are trying to find the value which we're receiving as x and y through this scanner class is based on whether it's same type or not, right? So which means like the scanner class is throwing this exception, which means like the scanner input is coming from these two lines, right? So which has to be inside the code try block. So that's why it was failed. Now I just move that one. So if you guys see here, all the test cases are passed, right? So this is how like we have to solve how to handle the exception handling in Java. So basically we have to make sure like we have to use the proper handling of catch block. So finally we have to use general exception so that like if nothing happens here, like it will be catched here. Let me submit the code and we'll see if it works or not. So yep, got success, right? So all the test cases are passed, right? So I will be seeing you guys in the next challenge. So I hope you guys understood this one. Please try to execute the same thing in your Eclipse or your whatever the flavor of your IDE, and then let me know your comments. And let me know also like what you're looking for the next coding challenge in your comments of this video. Thank you so much. Bye bye.